I would like to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Are you less than happy with your free motion quilting results? Do you have creases and puckers in your quilt and you just want to rip it all out? Here are 8 common mistakes that quilters make when quilting on their domestic sewing machine, and some tips to help you prevent them. So stick with me and I'll show you how to do it. Hi, I'm Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. I give you tips, tricks, and strategies to help you make the quilt that you want to make. And if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. The quilting part of making a quilt is challenging, not just in physically managing the quilt, but in managing our expectations on how much to prepare, how much time to take, and what results are acceptable. So let's go through 8 foundational mistakes and how to fix them. We finished the quilt top and now we have this burst of momentum from our sense of accomplishment, only to realize that we're only halfway done. Not only is making the quilt sandwich a huge pivot in skills from piecing the top, it's also fiddly and fussy, but it's the foundation for your quilting. You can have the best piecing and free motion quilting skills in the world, but if you don't make the effort to make a good quilt sandwich so that the 3 layers are flat and move evenly through your machine, you'll have creases in your quilt. There are several ways to make a quilt sandwich, and I've already made a video about them. If you haven't watched my video on 6 ways to make a quilt sandwich, I'll leave a link in the notes below. It might seem like a time waster, but take the time to plan your quilting so that it complements your quilt top. This clear shower curtain is from my dollar store hacks part 2. Through taking the time to plan, not only will you think of ideas that you may not have originally thought of to highlight your piecing, but you might also discover that you have a specialty block or 2 that you want to draw attention to, or a place for secondary designs. Or you might discover that your original idea is too difficult for your skill level, or it will demand way more time than you want to take. I have also made a video on 10 fast and easy quilting designs, and I'll leave a link in the notes to that as well. You also want to plan the way that your quilt is going to move through your sewing machine harp so that you can minimize the times that you need to turn your quilt. Less turning, less hard on your quilt, less hard on your body. To avoid puckers in your quilt, you want to move from one side of your quilt to the other, or from the middle out towards the edges. Your quilt sandwich has 3 layers, and even if you've made a perfect quilt sandwich, these 3 layers like to move through your sewing machine at different rates, which can create a surge in bulk, and you want to control that bulk by flowing it out towards the edges. So initially, it may seem easier to do all the borders first, or get to the end and just spin the quilt around and quilt back, but you'll end up with an excess of your quilt top in the middle, or these kind of ridges as you quilt back and forth. Again, practicing can seem like a waste of time. You might think that you know what you're going to do, or that you've done it before, or you're just doing straight lines. How hard could that be? It's amazing what you discover on your practice pieces. Not only does it warm up those muscle memory skills, you'll see if you have tension issues, see how your thread color works. You'll find out if you need a new needle or a larger size. Plus, it can remind you to do things like change to your walking foot or your embroidery foot. Put on your quilting gloves, get more lighting, adjust your machine, clear items out of your work area, and more. Not sitting properly takes a toll on your body, which means you tire easily, and that will affect the quality of your quilting. Not only should your seat be adjusted so that there's a 90-degree angle at your elbows, hips, and knees, your core muscles should be engaged, which means your neck is long, your collarbones are broad, and your ribs are knitted. We think that quilting is all about the arms, but if you can engage your core while you quilt, not only will it be easier on your body, but you'll have finer control over your movements, which means your accuracy will improve. And definitely use gloves. They provide this friction, so the quilt top is so much easier to handle. These are official quilting gloves and they have tacky fingers. But I also use these ones, which I got from the dollar store. See my dollar store sewing hacks part 1. Quilting videos that you see on YouTube are most often sped up. I do it on my own channel because it's just not that interesting to watch quilting at a regular speed. So when we sit down to quilt, our brains are trained to think that ×8 or ×20 is normal, and we rush to match what we see online. So slow down. When you are practicing, find that rate that you are comfortable at, and your hand placement can move easily. When straight line quilting, there's also a tendency to push your quilt through the machine. That can lead to the ridges between the rows. I know it gets tedious to stop and reset your quilt all the time so that it can feed through evenly, but that leads to the next mistake. End of your quilt project is so near, you can taste it. If you just burn the midnight oil, it will all be done and you can check it off the list. Sound familiar? I personally have been guilty of this many times, and I am currently ripping out some less than stellar results of that. Quilting while tired leads to mistakes and uneven results. And if you're not maintaining good posture, quite likely a trip to the chiropractor when you're done. So take your time. Not just slow down, pace yourself. Take breaks, reset your quilt. Take breaks to adjust your posture and have a drink of water. Take breaks to stand up and stretch. It might take 2 to 3 times what you first initially thought it would, but the results will be worth it.
Before we get to the last point, let me tell you about Skillshare.
Skillshare is an online learning community that offers membership with meaning. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and more. Skillshare classes include a combination of video lessons and a class project. And best of all, Skillshare has classes to fit your schedule and skill level. You can learn and grow with short classes that fit the short blocks of time in your busy day, whether you watch on your morning commute, your lunch hour, or in a waiting room. Skillshare is also extremely affordable, especially when compared to in-person classes and workshops. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. Members get unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes with hands-on projects and feedback from a community of millions. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click on the link in the description below will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. It is so easy to see the flaws and the less than perfect curves and points as you do them from 6 inches away, or when you're working on a high contrast practice piece. But quilting is judged on the whole quilt, from 5 paces back or across the room. Look at this mistake. Can you see it now? Or how about this mistake? It disappears. And did you notice that these 2 patterns don't even match? Once you get your binding on, so much is forgiven. So it's important to be patient with yourself as you practice and your skills improve. Now, some of you might know that I recently purchased a long arm, and you might be thinking that I no longer need to worry about making these mistakes. Though handling the quilt is easier with a long arm, you still need a flat quilt sandwich. You still need to plan, prepare, and practice. Have good posture, progress through the quilt, pace, not race, and be patient with your progress. How's that for alliteration? And one more, I promise that these foundational steps yield results. It just takes time. On Karen's Quilt Circle this week, I have Wendy Chow of The Weekend Quilter, and we are speaking about finding your quilting community. It's a great interview, so I'll leave a link down in the notes below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell beside the subscribe button so that YouTube will notify you when I make new videos. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Just Get It Done Quilts. And of course, sign up for my newsletter at justgetitdonequilts.com. So take care, and I'll see you next time.